Welcome to our deep dive on retaining a personal immigration lawyer. Think of it like having a primary care physician for your legal status. First, we'll frame why this proactive strategy is gaining traction. Then we'll unpack benefits, costs, and practical steps to set it up correctly. Along the way, we'll use diagrams and examples, and we'll end with a helpful summary and a call to action. Let's begin by laying out today's agenda. Here is our roadmap. First, we explore the concept of a personal immigration lawyer on retainer. Next, we clarify how retainers work for individuals, not just businesses. Then, we compare convenience and cost. After that, we highlight why proactive planning is critical. We'll also cover actionable implementation steps, walk through real-world scenarios, and finally test your understanding with a short quiz. Now let's establish the core concept. The central idea is to retain an immigration lawyer much like you rely on a primary care physician for your health. Instead of scrambling when a problem arises, you maintain an ongoing relationship where your attorney understands your background, has your documents, and monitors relevant legal changes. Consequently, when something happens, you're not starting from zero. With that in mind, let's see precisely how this works. Here is how the relationship typically functions. First, you sign a retainer agreement that defines availability and scopes. Second, your attorney assembles and maintains a comprehensive file with your history and documents. Third, you set periodic check-ins so your status, life changes, and filings remain current. Fourth, the attorney watches for policy shifts that might affect you and alerts you proactively. Finally, if an issue occurs, they are ready to respond immediately because they already know your case and have your documents. Now, before we go further, we should cover an important disclaimer. This content is informational and does not create an attorney-client relationship. Laws and policies vary by jurisdiction and change frequently. For advice on your specific situation, consult a qualified, licensed immigration attorney where you live or where your matter will be adjudicated. With that clear, let's move to the benefits of being proactive. There are three major benefits. First, knowledge advantage. Your attorney begins with a fully built file and does not need weeks to collect documents if a denial, audit, or enforcement action occurs. Second, tailored advice. With regular check-ins, your attorney translates changing policies into recommendations specific to your situation, rather than waiting for problems to appear. Third, secured expertise. By planning ahead, you select a lawyer you trust, so in a crisis you are not forced to settle for whoever is available. Next, let's visualize proactive versus reactive approaches. This flowchart shows two branches. On the proactive branch, a retainer is signed, a complete file is built, periodic check-ins occur, policy monitoring happens, and an immediate response is possible when needed. On the reactive branch, there is no retainer, a problem arises unexpectedly, you scramble to find an attorney, documents must be collected under pressure, and response time is delayed. The diagram highlights the time saved and stress avoided when you invest in preparation. On the left, the pros. Faster response times because your attorney already knows your case. Ongoing risk monitoring so you are alerted to changes. Continuity in the relationship, which builds trust and efficiency. And reduced stress because you are not reacting under pressure. On the right, the cons. There is an upfront expense. If your status remains stable, the service may feel underutilized, and you must commit to periodic check-ins to keep your file current. With that balanced view, let's define exactly what a retainer typically covers. This table outlines common inclusions and exclusions. Typically included are initial file setup, annual reviews, short quarterly check-ins, document storage and tracking, targeted policy alerts, and priority for emergency response. Items that often require additional fees include drafting and filing new petitions, court appearances, and preparing responses to requests for evidence or notices of intent to deny. Because each firm structures retainers differently, ensure your agreement clearly lists inclusions and what triggers extra billing. Next, let's turn these concepts into actionable steps. Follow these steps. First, define your goals and risks. Second, shortlist attorneys who focus on the areas relevant to your status. Third, request sample retainer agreements to compare scope. Fourth, clarify response time expectations, check-in frequency, and how alerts will be delivered. Fifth, Explicitly specify included services versus billable extras in the written agreement. 6th, agree on a secure document sharing process and update cadence. 7th, put review dates on your calendar and keep them. 8th, reassess each year to adjust the scope and budget as your situation evolves. To reinforce these rhythms, let's map an annual timeline. This timeline depicts a year-long cycle. In month 1, you complete the initial review. By month 3, you schedule a short policy update check-in. At month 6, you conduct a mid-year status review and refresh documents. Around month 9, you perform a risk scan to plan filings or travel if applicable. In month 12, you hold an annual comprehensive review and decide whether to renew or adjust your retainer. These checkpoints keep your file current and your strategy aligned with policy changes. Now let's test your understanding with a quick quiz. Question: what is the biggest time saver of having a lawyer on retainer during a sudden legal issue? Options are: A. Prepaid filing fees. B. An existing complete case file and immediate availability. C. Fewer government forms to complete. D. Guaranteed approvals. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is an existing, complete case file and immediate availability. The reason is that when your attorney has already compiled your file and understands your background, they can move immediately without spending days or weeks gathering documents and learning your case under pressure. Now, let's ground the concept with a few real-world scenarios. Consider these examples. First, when a request for evidence or notice of intent to deny arrives, your attorney can formulate a response immediately because your documentation is already organized. Second, during a worksite audit, your counsel has past filings on hand and can coordinate a fast, accurate response. Third, before travel, a brief check-in can reveal potential risks and suggest safer timing or necessary documents. Fourth, when policy shifts, your scheduled update call allows the attorney to translate changes into specific next steps for you. To quantify the impact, let's visualize where most time is saved. This pie chart estimates where time savings typically come from. The largest share is document readiness, since collecting and organizing records often consumes the most time. Next is case familiarity, where the attorney's knowledge of your history and goals reduces delays. Rapid strategy alignment accounts for another portion, because pre-existing plans can be adapted quickly. Finally, prioritized scheduling adds a smaller but meaningful time advantage, because retainers usually come with priority response. With the value clearer, let's consolidate the key takeaways. Remember these points. A retainer changes your posture from reactive to proactive. The benefits include knowledge advantage, tailored advice, and secured expertise. Although there is an upfront cost, the time saved during crises can be decisive. Put the scope in writing to clarify inclusions and extras. Finally, commit to regular check-ins and document refreshes to maintain the value of the arrangement. To wrap up, here is a concise summary. In summary, a personal immigration lawyer on retainer functions like a primary care physician for your legal status. Preparedness beats panic because your file is ready, your attorney is engaged, and responses are faster. Avoid surprises by defining scope, cadence, and costs in the agreement. Then, review annually and adjust as your circumstances and policies evolve. Finally, let's close with a quick thank you and a call to action. Thank you for joining. If you found this useful, please like, share, and subscribe. We also invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Would you retain a personal immigration lawyer for peace of mind? Your feedback helps us create even more helpful content.